Good evening, guys. This one is going to be on kind of on the verse Genesis in Genesis 2, chapter 2, verse 23 and 24. It talks about leaving your father or leaving your mother and your father. So the verse says, "The man said, 'This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. This is why a man leaves his father and his mother and is united with his wife.'" So this really comes to, me and Christy have talked about probably an hour when we get more upset with each other because we're so used to the way we were raised and the way our parents did it, either her parents or my parents, whether it be how you keep your house, how you do your finances, how you raise the kids. We're so set in the ways from when we were raised, and for good reason. I mean, we're with our parents for 18 to 20 some years, and we really get set in those ways. But I think this verse is saying, when he says that is why a man leaves his father and his mother and is united with his wife. I take that literally as you literally cut off what you've learned. It doesn't say to therefore disrespect your parents and don't take any of their advice or don't listen to them at all, but it is saying to stop those old ways, and now it's time to start basically a whole new life with your wife. And that's tough when you go to merge husband and wives old past and make a new life. And you have to really try to, like I said, literally cut off the old way of thinking about most things. And not that you can't use the way you were taught from your parents, but I think you're called to seek the truth on what's best for your family. And just because what worked for your parents doesn't mean it's going to work for you and your wife. And me and Christy are finding this out a lot in our life, that the ways I was used to doing it doesn't work for me and Christy, or the way she was used to doing it doesn't work for me and Christy. And that's fine. That's a good thing. It's actually kind of fun to learn a new way that is new to both of us because we weren't raised that way, or like recently finding a new church. Neither one of us grew up in the church that we're currently attending, so it's been very fun and exciting learning that new way of worshiping God. So I also have a note here. It says, "Find your own passions, hobbies, church. Seek the truth together as family and be unashamed by it." I kind of went over that already, but yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go look for a new church just because your parents weren't brought up in that religion or that faith. That doesn't matter. I believe Genesis is telling us we cut those old ways off. Doesn't mean we can't use any of them, but we have a new life in Jesus Christ together as a family when we get married, and we are called to seek out what's best for our new family. So yeah, religion, passions, hobbies. I also have a thing here for finances. Finances are big, and especially if the husband or wife's family that they came from, maybe one of them talked about finances a lot, maybe one of them didn't talk about finances at all. And the ones that did talk about finances, how did they talk about them? Did they talk about debt as a good thing or as a bad thing? Just because maybe your parents grew up always having a car loan, that's fine. But what if you marry someone who grew up and their parents always preached never having a car loan and that debt was horrible? It's good to know both sides called to a brand new relationship. So you need to take control of your finances as a married couple and do your own research and figure out what's best for you guys and your finances. Leverage, debt can be a great thing if it's used for income. I've in the past owned some rental properties, and without that leverage was awesome. I made it cash flowed and made some decent money on it. Leverage can be a terrible thing, or debt can be a terrible thing if you get in over your head. If you have credit card loan or credit card payments and car payments and house payments, it can really eat you alive. I bring up finances because it's a very touchy subject in most relationships, but each side is going to bring a different, the husband and wife are both going to bring a different sense of knowledge of finances. Maybe one side has very little, and sometimes that can be okay too if you don't have a lot of knowledge of it. If your parents didn't teach you much about it, then you can kind of learn on your own. It's also can be a very dangerous thing, and I think it's kind of a disservice to your kids to not teach them anything, because debt is so dangerous and can hamper their lives as kids so quickly that I think as parents we're obligated to teach our kids something about money, the benefits and how great it can be, and the dangers and how terrible it can be especially if you worship it, or if you get into trouble with it and then you're enslaved to a job to try to pay these debts. So it can be a very good thing and very dangerous thing. Just as a couple, you need to learn it as a couple together and how you're being called to use it. I think it comes down to just, there's a verse in the Bible too, I'm trying to remember, I should have looked that up, that I don't think it's not the one that if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, or if your left arm's causing you to sin, cut it off. But it's kind of just literally cutting off your old ambition, like your old ideas of what marriage or what life is supposed to be. Once you're married, you have to start. I don't know if I said this, I'm not telling in none of these videos, don't take it as I'm telling you this is how it is. These are thoughts going through my head and how I'm trying to think of it and get better in life. And I feel like we're being called to just cut off our old ways of what we were taught as kids, and on both sides, husband and wife. We can use those, what we were taught, but we're called to start a brand new life together. Seek the truth in all aspects. Faith, finances, how we're going to raise our kids. Everything our parents taught us is great, and we can use it as tools. Even if it was wrong or bad, that's still good knowledge to know. And it'll help us in how we raise our kids. And only as a couple together seeking the truth can we begin the journey of having that perfect life. As a married couple together, seeking the truth, cutting off our old ways and seeking new ways with the knowledge of what we both, the husband and wife, both grew up with, can we seek the truth and make that perfect life that God is calling us to do